up my plaster and silica with water. I'm going to do something really important. I'm going to let it sit in the water without stirring it. It's called slaking. And it makes a huge difference when you go to hand mix it. If you let it sit for a minute or two, when you go to mix it, there will be no lumps or bumps. If I started to mix it right now, I would have to break up. I would have to do a lot more work. If you just let it sit, it doesn't seem like it would work that way, but it does. It's going to be a lot easier to hand mix it.
Is there a specific order you mix everything in?
That's a really good question. So,
everything, it depends. So there's a lot of things that are going to affect how fast your plaster silica sets up. Water temperature, the warmer the water, the faster the plaster will set up. The more you agitate it, the faster the plaster is going to set up. The order in which you apply your plaster or silica to the water. So I always mix my dry ingredients into my wet material. If I put the plaster in first, it's going to start to react faster, right? So I'll have less time to mix it. There are some things that you can do to make your plaster set slower. I've heard that lemon juice is a really good retardant, so it'll slow it way down. Colder water, less stirring. Those are all things that'll make it. Oh, and the type of plaster too. Molding plaster typically, I have found, sets up faster than pottery plaster. I have not found that there is a big difference in the quality of mold between using plaster, pottery plaster, and molding plaster.
So is pottery plaster or molding plaster, is any of those plaster fierce, or is that something totally different?
I think they're all the same. Yeah. I mean, they're different types of plaster repairs, but I could be wrong about that. I don't really know.
Pottery plaster is more the hydrostone. It's more dense, so it does take longer to set up. Yeah, because I've used it for molds.
Does it hold on to its water? I've heard that it got more like chemical water in it too.
Yeah.
So, you know, like all of these things impact the way that your molds come out, and the more complex or larger your molds get, the more those little differences affect what you're doing. For this type of work, I have not found there to be any difference in between the two materials. Typically I use pottery plaster because it is in the same location as the other materials that I'm purchasing on to make an extra stop for it. Make sense to everyone? So I'm going to mix that up now. It's going to look, should I have done my count right, which was easy today because it was 1 to 1 to 1, but if you start doing 8 cups of each thing, maybe you're going to lose count. When I go to mix it, it's going to look, it's going to obscure the color of my skin, but you'll still be able to see all of my arm hairs through the mixture. And that's what you're looking for. That's like a way to double check and make sure that you have done the proper amount of measuring. It should look just like that, which it should, I hope.
Thick, but you can kind of see how that looks. So it's a little bit thick, but I'm not too worried.
And this is pottery plaster?
Yes. Probably number one pottery plaster. Your design's going to be really nice, so you can leave yours on. But I'm going to pull mine off. You don't do that part. Pretend like you didn't see it. So I'm going to agitate this until it starts to set up, and then I'm going to apply it over my bowl. I want it to start to set up because I don't want to puddle it all over the tabletop. And you'll feel it start to set up. So you're just going to agitate it until it starts to change. It takes a little practice. This is definitely a little bit more of a challenging mold to make as opposed to just creating a plaster around this and pouring the plaster in. But the results are going to be a lot better. Matt, can you give me a cup of grog out of that bag that's ours? And can you also put 1 cup of water, 1 cup of silica into a bucket? And we'll wait on the plaster. Okay, so I'm going to start to apply this over my bowl. If I had a lot of texture on this, I would want to be sure I was patting with my fingers to make sure that I'm pulling those air bubbles up to the surface. Now do you see how it's kind of spreading out? So I'm not quite as set as I'm going to need to be to finish this. So I'm just going to stop and wait. Sometimes it's nice to do this first layer in 2 steps. If you've got a lot of detail, you can put the plaster on while it's really liquid. Agitate it a little more until it starts to, actually starts to thicken up, and then apply the rest of it. That can help give you a little bit more coverage on your fine details. Now, as I'm agitating this, I'm making sure that I'm not adding any air into this mixture. Air bubbles on the surface of your positive are going to become positive in your final product. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. So I want to avoid that. If I find any hair or other organic material in my mixture, I'm going to pull it out like I just did. And you're going to see it's going to start to look more like, I don't know, Greek yogurt maybe. Can you see how that looks like maybe a little bit different than it did earlier? Before it was more moving like water. Now it's starting to move a little bit.
Like pancake
or
batter.
like when you whip cream, how you get the soft peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of dairy references in this class.
I'm just wondering how many times you've stuck your hands in Greek yogurt.
Oh, constantly. Pretty much my life when I'm not here. All right, so that looks a little different, right? You can see that it's still spreading out, but it's starting to, it's not moving as flat or as much like water as it was. So I'm going to put a pretty substantial base coat on this because I want to carve into it, and I want to carve through to my second layer that has that aggregate.
If you've got detail on the surface, do you need to work it into the detail at all, or will it?
Yeah, when you apply it to that sort of first, you apply that first coat, kind of give it a little tap with your fingers, or some people like to paint it on with a paintbrush. That's kind of personal preference. But yeah, you do want to be aware of that as you're applying it. Okay, so I have rinsed out my bucket with lots of time left to go ahead and start to pull up the edges. I want my mold to mimic the shape that's underneath it. So right now what I have is sort of like the bowl shape and then all of this crap on the table. So I'm going to pull up all of that